Hudson Valley Institute for Innovation. A tall man stepped down from the vehicle, and for a moment she forgot how to breathe. Instinctively, she stepped away from the heat and light of the window, but she couldn't resist watching through a gap in the curtains as he spoke briefly to the driver and then headed up the walkway toward the house. He wore green-tinted celluloid sunglasses, all the rage among cyclists and drivers these days, and his clothes were rumpled, as though he had picked them up from a heap on the floor. She wasn't prepared for the effect he still had on her after all this time. Yes, she felt bitter resentment. That was to be expected, given the way he'd treated her. But, like a current beneath the surface of a calm lake, she sensed something else. Something as forbidden and as undeniable as the passion she had felt when she first met him, nearly a decade before. She resisted the urge to push aside the shroud that draped the mantel mirror and study her reflection. Instead, she checked and double-checked the fitted bombazine sleeves of her black morning gown, neatly fastened at the wrists with a row of obsidian buttons. Appearances were everything. It was, perhaps, the first lesson she could remember learning, drummed into her by a stern-faced nanny dressing her at the age of 3 for her mother's funeral. Should she be seated? No. That would wrinkle the gown. She positioned herself on the Persian silk hearth rug in the middle of the parlor, posing like one of the concrete statues in Congress Spring Park. Glaring light from the window made her skin prickle with heat. She wore her copper-colored curls swept up, though a trickle of perspiration rolled down the back of her neck. She tried to arrange her face into an expression of serenity, not out of vanity, but habit. Her looks had brought her nothing but trouble, yet she knew of no other way to present herself. Besides, some perverse part of her wanted him to feel the same waves of nostalgic longing that were coursing through her now. With a flourish, Archie opened both parlor doors. "A gentleman to see you, ma'am." The butler's voice rasped with the roughness of a summer cold, and his slight emphasis on the term gentleman added a note of skepticism. "Of course. Thank you." The butler melted back into the foyer, and her visitor strode into the room, removing his tinted spectacles and setting them on a side table. His fathomless eyes were even bluer than memory allowed. He took one look at her, and the expression on his face was everything she had anticipated: curiosity and wonder, shaded with suspicion and perhaps regret. They stared at each other, the air between them heavy and palpable with memories. "Helena." He said her name in a low voice that reverberated through her like a lingering caress. "Hello, Professor Rowan," she said, deliberately using his formal title. "Thank you for coming. Would you like something to drink?" She gestured at the carved mahogany sideboard in the corner, laden with a sweating pitcher of lemonade and a silver bowl of chipped ice. "Yes, please." She spooned ice into a crystal goblet, then poured the lemonade. Nerves made her hands unsteady. Had she been mistaken in asking him to come? Perhaps so, but she didn't know what else to do. Like a rabbit caught in a snare, she would turn anywhere, do anything to escape, even if running away wounded her worse than staying put. She would do anything to reclaim her safety, even turn to the one man she thought she would never see again. Terror was a new sensation to her. It clutched at her spine with icy fingers, pressed at her chest until she couldn't breathe, making her dizzy with its power. She refused to live like this, frozen from the inside out. She wasn't rational. She knew that. Fear kept her from thinking clearly, and in that moment of madness, she had sent for Michael Rowan. Convincing him to help her was a long shot, but she was desperate. Perhaps it was callous, this imperious summons, but she didn't really care. Years ago, Michael Rowan had used